So the first story that I want to have a look at is the one that's dominating everyone's I think everyone's minds over the course of the window so far, and I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing. I'm starting to get a bit sick of it myself, but it is, of course, the Alexander Isak thing. And David Ornstein there was the one who broke the Isak story latest. I don't know if there's any great massive news in it, but it is a confirmation that he will not play for Newcastle again. Lots of talk about that. We'll come back to that aspect of it, the Downing tools aspect of it. Even if the window closes without exit, the 25-year-old views his NUFC career to be over, says Ornstein, and has no wish to reintegrate. The club say he's not for sale, but they are exploring the market amid Liverpool interest. Now, I don't know what market they're exploring, Jan, because there is only really one club who looks to be willing to pay the dirty, huge amount for the lad, and that's us. And there's also a couple of links that they have between Newcastle and other players, which I find almost pointless to talk about at the moment, because Newcastle, and this is one of the big problems here, their recruitment over the summer has been nothing short of tragic. I'd like to say it's been ineffective. I'd like to say they've been unlucky, but it's actually amateur night. I don't understand what's happening. Maybe you have some insight into that. Let's start, though, first with the idea of Isak, the player. Were he to come into the picture, I think we can both agree that the defence needs to be addressed. We can see comments in the comment thread already about that. You and I spoke about it before we even started here. We'll get there, folks. Don't worry about that. So we're not ignoring the defence at the moment. But were Isak to be added to the attacking options, do you think, Jan, that leaves us well balanced in that attack? Because there are all these stories that won't go away, linking us to the likes of Barcola. We previously were linked to Rodrigo. We have been linked to Malik Fofana. So I'm curious as to what is going on here. Do we have a plan A and a plan B that's quite different, do you think?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Absolutely. I do think that we look at our wide attack as option, and we're thinking, we might just be go out a little bit here. But what the club is aware of is that this is a bit like, I'm not convinced that 8-10 months ago, our number one transfer target was Florian Wirtz. I'm not convinced that's the case. But I think it's something that fell our way. All of a sudden, a player that most people felt he's going to go to Manchester City. He spoke to Pep, blah, blah, blah. When it happens, Manchester City get you in a headlock, don't they? And you become a Manchester City player. But he kind of fell on our. So I think we kind of gone, well, this is a player. And I think that the people who do all the stats at Anfield would have gone, listen, this is a player we can't afford to miss out on. So we've gone for him. Then we'll deal with whatever, believing that he can play in a number of positions anyway. Alexander Isak almost falls into the same category of once in a lifetime. The thing with Alexander Isak is that if you want him, it's got to be here now, hasn't it? And also 25 in September, which means he'll be 26, or is it even 26 in September, whatever. So you've got to be careful if you want to wait 12 months and how old he is and might not fit how we would like to sign this. So no doubt he's a good player. I have to stress though, Trevor, I'm not necessarily a big fan of the way he's behaved. I think he might have been able to do these things in a different way. Letting Newcastle know that he wants to go to Liverpool. I find it strange in a World Cup year that he's so keen on making such a big point about it all. He still has 3 years left on his contract. I would like to be Newcastle, but most of it is self-reflected on what a nightmare they've had. They've got no CEO, they've got no director of football. They had a director of football that promised Alexander Isak a new contract, which they then thought wasn't a good idea. They got massive issues. They saw this coming with Ekiteke and Isak. They just couldn't stop it. They knew what was happening. They knew we were going to take it. Ekiteke Austin, they knew we were going to come for Alexander and Isak. There's nothing they could do to stop it, apart from what they're doing now, which I don't know how long that's going to last. I just have this feeling, Trevor, that we play him on a Monday night bank holiday. I think it's the 25th of August. There's still a week left of the window. You know, this is that the moment where they kind of go, well, Liverpool have now been to St James's Park. Alexander Isak wouldn't have to visit in the next 12 months. This is a time where Liverpool and Alexander Isak get their wish.
Yeah, I'm interested in your take on his behaviour, because a lot of people have been quick to point out that Liverpool as a club have been here before in terms of maybe the likes of Torres, maybe the likes of more recently Coutinho, Suarez, people like that, where Liverpool were seen as the penultimate step on someone's career. You know, it feels now as if Liverpool might be the destination club. The Florian Wirtz thing would seem to be a suggestion of that for a lot of clubs, for a lot of players, we might be the place to be, which is great. And it makes a massive difference to us going forward. But we have been here before. We have endured the fact that players want to be elsewhere. We'll all remember the back injury that Coutinho had and all the rest of it. Would you have any sympathy with Isak in terms of the fact that it is a very short career, and if he feels, now people have said maybe he's not being very well advised and all that kind of thing, but that if he feels that the only way he can get his move in his very finite career to get playing at the standard and the type of club that he wants to play at is to play this kind of hardball thing, would you have sympathy with that? Do you think maybe obviously Liverpool fans won't care, but it's interesting that you bring that up. What's your take on that?
I think it's very difficult to answer that, Trevor. Would I have any sympathy with him? You know, as I said before, I feel that he might have been able to deal with it in a different way. Obviously started off very deliberate, make sure the world knew he was training on his own, away from the city in Spain. And obviously now, since where Newcastle said, we're not going to sell you this window, he's come out and said, well, you know, I'll never wear the shirt again. I think that's maybe a little bit over the top. He could have done. It's, as far as I'm concerned, Trevor, it's not something that I would ever hold against somebody who joins Anfield. But right this moment in time, he is a Newcastle player. And if I was a Newcastle fan, I would be disappointed. But we did this, and I'm sure, Trevor, we've done a podcast where we spoke about Alexander Isak. And the general consensus about Alexander Isak from last year was that they won a trophy at Wembley and they qualified for the Champions League again. And people said, surely that'll be enough to keep him. And I have to say that, Trev, I never thought that would be enough. Alexander Isak is viewed as one of the best number 9s in the world. He plays in the Premier League and the Champions League, but he has no chance of winning either. Yeah. And the great players want to compete. He wants to play in Champions League semi-finals, finals. They want to be in the top 1, 2, 3 in the Premier League. And that's how he sees himself. So winning the Carabao Cup and finishing 5th in qualifying was never, ever going to be enough. It was only a matter of if anyone was prepared to push the button and offer somewhere close to what he wanted. You know, they can't give him what he wants as a footballer. And it's also transpired that they can't give him what he deserves as he's standing as one of the best number 9s in the world. So it is a problem. I just wish he'd have turned up for training and join in with the lads. And if I have to play the first game of the season against Aston Villa, then so be it. Also for him, it's a World Cup year. It's not. Yeah, I just find it strange.
Yeah, I agree. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, which we will all forget about. Like you said, if he comes through the door, and other people can hang on to their grievances. Some of the loudest people, by the way, about this have been Arsenal fans, because of course, I'm completely ignoring the fact that Gyökeres did pretty much the same thing, unless I'm very much mistaken, this summer too. So look, that's all tribalism, and that can be whatever it is.